Here tonight to speak with a great actor, Mr. Cary Elwes. He's done some excellent horror films, and of course I think we probably most well remembered as Wesley and the Dread Pirate Roberts. You ready to talk to Cary?
Yeah!
As you wish, Mr. Cary Elwes.
How you doing out there? I can't hear you. How you doing out there? I want to hear a DragonCon roar! How you doing? Awesome. Huh?
So, hope you're happy to meet shy, retiring Cary Elwes.
Very shy. Very retiring.
Oh yeah, right.
Hi, Pixie.
Hi, Cary.
How you guys doing? Good?
Yeah!
You guys having a fun DragonCon?
Yeah!
No, take two. Are you guys having a fun DragonCon? Have you seen things you wish you hadn't?
Yeah.
Guess what? Too late. Anthony.
Things can never be unseen, right?
Right?
No.
So, Cary, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
We're very happy to have you here and talking about some of your great roles. But before you became a professional actor in the film and the stage world, you had another job on film or two. Is that correct?
That is correct. I started out as a production assistant, a PA, because my stepfather was in the business, and he said, if you want to go in the movie business, you're going to have to start from the ground up. You're going to have to, as he said, you're going to have to make coffee. You're going to have to make coffee and schlep. That's what he said. So I learned to make coffee. Real good coffee. Anybody want a coffee?
Yeah!
Sorry. Coffee days are over. But, I worked on a couple of movies. I worked on a James Bond film called Octopussy. And my first day on the set, I was printing call sheets, which, for those of you who don't know, call sheets are the pieces of paper that you print for the actors and the crew to let them know what the next day's work is, and it has the call times and the scene numbers and etc. And somebody comes in the production office and says, Cary, you're wanted on the set. They need an extra PA on the set, right? So I go down to the set, and I'm very excited because this will be the first movie set I've ever walked on. This is at Pinewood Studios in England. And I walk on the set, it's very dark. And back then, they had these huge electrical cables. I mean, they were literally as thick as this metal canister right here. And one of the ADs comes over to me and says, just stick around. Anybody needs anything, you get it for them, right? I said, fine, great. So I'm in awe. I can see Roger Moore walking on the set as James Bond. I'm like, cool, it's Roger Moore, cool. And then I see this girl walk up, and she's playing the new Miss Moneypenny, and I think her character's name is Miss Goodhead. And, you know, typical name for a Bond character, right? And she's being sewn into her dress. They made a skin-tight dress for her. And the seamstress and the costume designer are on their knees, and they're sewing the dress onto her. And I'm staring at this because I'm 17. I'm thinking, you know, I can get into this. And one of the PAs comes over and says, we need a coffee right now for one of the actors. I'm like, got it. So I go over to the coffee maker on the side of the set. I start to make coffee, with cream, sugar, I come out, and as I'm walking up to hand over the coffee, I trip over the thick cable, the size of this jug right here. And literally, it was like in slow motion. I could see the coffee cup leave my hand and fly onto Miss Goodhead's brand new dress. And I remember the look on the seamstress was like this. She was like, no. And I saw the first first AD do this. He literally went, you. And I went, me? He goes, back to the production of this. And I was banned from the set on the first day. So that was my experience on Octopussy. But it was a very worthwhile one, because I learned never to not look where I was walking on a set. So.
And I believe Marlon Brando had a little nickname for you, didn't he, on Superman?
Yes, I got to do a few days on Superman as a PA as well. And my job was to get Mr. Brando out of his trailer. Why they thought a brand new PA on the set of Superman was the right guy to get Mr. Brando out of his trailer, I'll never know. But I'll never forget the third AD walking up to Marlon Brando's trailer and saying, before we went in, he goes, all right, let me just warn you that Mr. Brando is, he's notoriously late, okay? He likes to take his time, and that's how he rolls, but we're under a very tight schedule here, and we need you to get him there on time. I'm standing there going, what? Before I can finish my thought, he knocks on the door, and he goes, I can hear from the other side of the door, I can hear, oh yes? And the AD goes, Mr. Brando? Yes? Mr. Brando, I have the new PA here who wants to meet you. He's taken over for me for today. Hold on a second, hold on. A few minutes later, the door opens. And there is Marlon Brando. I mean, I'm like in shock. And he says, come on, because it's cold out there. Oh, come inside, close the door. So we go inside his trailer. And the AD says, Mr. Brando, this is our new PA. He's going to be taking over for me for today. And his name is Cary. And he looks at me and he goes, no, you're not. And what was running through my head was, okay, Mr. Brando says I'm not Cary. I'm going to have to go with this, whatever he says. And he goes, no, your name is Rocky. And I said, yes, it is, sir. You're absolutely right. Yes, it is. It's Rocky. He goes, all right, you can leave now, to the AD. And the guy leaves me in the trailer with Marlon. And Marlon goes, so Rocky, you know how to lie, don't you? And I go, yes, Mr. Brando. He goes, good, because that's going to come in handy. So that was my first day on Superman. And needless to say, it was quite an experience trying to get him to the set on time. But
thank you for a career of lying.
Absolutely. There you go.
We definitely want to talk about the Princess Bride.
Okay.
I know you've got a new book.
You guys, have anyone here seen the Princess Bride? Maybe one or two people.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Once or twice. Yesterday.
We also wanted to talk about some of your other roles in darker movies than The Princess Bride a little bit.
Okay.
I would love to know how you came to be a part of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay. That was another enormous experience for me, getting to work with Coppola, who's one of my favorite directors, right? Great director. And I got a call to go and meet him in his office on the Sony lot in Los Angeles. And I was incredibly nervous. I mean, my gosh, I put on a suit and tie. I thought, my God, I've got to be smart for Mr. Coppola, get this part, you know? I go in his office and I didn't realize that my collar was up and everything. And the first thing he did when I walked in the door, he went, come here. And I'm thinking, what's he gonna do, hug me? He comes over to me, I walk over to him, and he fixes my collar. He goes, that's better. And I literally went, oh God. God, I spent hours working on my hair. I forgot about my collar. So he said, so you know we're making this film about Dracula, and you know we don't have a lot of money because obviously it's all going into the movie. But and before he could finish the sentence, I go, Mr. Coppola, look, I should just tell you. Like Eric von Stroheim said to D.W. Griffith, For you, Mr. Griffith, I work for ham sandwich. And that's how I got the part.
That's great.
Obviously, it was more than a ham sandwich, but I think Francis was actually kind of tickled by that, because later on in the shoot, he's like, hey, Cary, got your ham sandwich over here.
You worked with an extraordinary cast in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins,
Yeah.
Gary Oldman, Bill
Yeah.
Campbell, Richard E. Grant,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves. What did you guys form a friendship of that core group? And do you have any memories of working with
Oh
those
my
folks?
gosh. Well, Francis is very much a great believer in rehearsal. And so he invited us all up to Napa. And he wanted to do a lot of theater games and rehearsals, and he films everything. He films every rehearsal, records it all. So he put us all up in the various bungalows that are on his property. And he separated us up into groups. So all the suitors, myself, Billy, and Richard E. Grant, we all stayed in one bungalow, and Hopkins stayed in another by himself, and Gary Oldman stayed in one by himself, and then all the girls stayed in a larger house, because he thought it's Victorian England, none of these guys would ever be sleeping in the same house together, yeah? And he did it on purpose, because he wanted to sort of make us all feel like we didn't quite have the rapport of not knowing each other until we got on the set, in terms of that history that we would have. But he wanted the suitors to have a history because he knew that those characters were all friends. So it was great. You know, he organized all these things for Richard and myself and Billy each day. Like one day he hired a hot air balloon, and I woke up one morning, we woke up to cameras, like a reality TV. You wake up and there's a camera in your face, and say, Mr. Elwes, there's something for you outside, and if you want to go out and check it out. And we go outside, and there's a hot air balloon. You know? And they wouldn't let us fly away, of course. They had us tethered to the ground, but we went up and down, and it was crazy. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And you know, obviously I'm a huge fan of all these actors that I got to work with. So it was a real thrill.
Another one of your darker roles that had a really great ensemble cast, like the Shadow Vampire.
Yeah.
You mind talking about that a little bit? Or?
Sure.
That's a very iconoclastic kind of a film. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone know that? Probably not.
Sure.
Really? No way.
Yeah, Malkovich and Willem Dafoe and
Yeah.
Eddie Izzard. You guys had, it looked like you were having, everybody on there was cheering up.
Yeah, it was a lot of hand acting on that one. We had a great time. We filmed that in Luxembourg, which is I mean, my gosh, it's a tiny country. You could drive across it in about 20 minutes. But it's beautiful, and it's filled with, I think it's, the reason they picked Luxembourg is it has more castles per square mile than any other country in Europe. And so we would just go from castle to castle shooting, and it was a little night shooting on them, so that's always fun. But yeah, what a cast, my gosh. Malkovich, amazing, and Defoe, who had about 8 hours of makeup each morning. I think the nails alone were about 2 hours,
Right.
you know? And he was great. He was great. I mean, it was really a lot of fun. And I thought the premise of the thing was so clever because the screenwriter had done his research, and I love historical pieces, obviously. And if you look at my career, you can see it. A lot of my roles were historical in genre. And he had done his research, and he found out that the actor who played Nosferatu in the original Nosferatu film, his stage name rather was Max Schreck, and in German, Schreck means fright, I think, or scream, right?
Terror.
Right, terror, right? And he thought to himself, wait a minute, that has to be a stage name. Why would anyone call themselves Max Terror or Max Fright? And so he came up with this premise: what if Max Schreck wasn't really an actor, but really was a vampire and was hired by Murnau to actually play himself in the movie, you know, for reality's sake. And so that was the idea behind it, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
That was one of my favorite movies of the year, and you were great in it. You were a very bombastic character.
Yes.
The replacement cinematographer.
Yes,
That's
that's
the one
right.
that was the night before.
Yes.
But if you haven't seen Shadow Vampire, I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Same with Saw.
Yes.
Remember Saw?
Saw.
Anybody
Anyone
remember
remember
seeing Saw?
Saw is actually coming back to a theater near you for Halloween. So for those of you who haven't seen it, you'll get a chance to see it in the theaters again, which is, I think, the best place to see
Oh yeah,
the film.
yeah.
To really enjoy the full effect, yeah.
What led you into that? That's such an interestingly put together film. It's almost like some of Christopher Nolan's early stuff with
Right.
kind of the backwards,
Right.
forwards memoir or sort of style.
Yeah.
How did you come aboard for Saw?
Sure, okay. Well, first of all, James Wan and Lee Wanell, who wrote the script together, and James directed it, and Lee plays the character opposite me, Adam, in the movie. They're both from Melbourne, Australia, really sweet guys, really, really great guys. And they came out of film school in Melbourne, and they wanted to make movies ever since they were kids, right? And they came up with this idea together when they were, I think, in their teens or something, and they tried to raise the money in Melbourne, and no one would give it to them. I think and James convinced his grandmother to give him some money so he could shoot just one sequence of the film that he could put on film, put on tape, and then he could take that to investors and see if anyone was interested. And so he got money off his grandmother to go and shoot a sequence with Lee wearing the reverse bear trap that Shawnee Smith wears in the movie, right? You guys remember that? And he took that DVD to Hollywood with him and went to every studio and played it for them and gave them the script to read and pitched it and the whole thing. Every single studio turned it down. Every single one. So by the way, here's a nice piece of trivia for you guys who want to be filmmakers. It doesn't matter. Where one door is closed, another is open. And all these studios are kicking themselves because in the end, it was my management company who stepped up to the plate and ended up financing the film themselves for $1 million. And it made $100 million in the first week.
And so they had good investment, right?
Very
nice
fair.
return.
It's a pretty fair investment.
Yeah.
And so all those studio heads who went, nah, don't see it, they're the ones kicking themselves now because you just never know. You just never know. So when I met James, I got the meeting. My manager said, these kids from Australia, they've got this great idea. It's an amazing horror film. I know you don't do horror films really much, but you got to meet this guy, James Wan. He's an amazing guy. Go meet him. So I went to the farmer's market in LA and met with him, and he's just, I don't know if you've seen pictures of James Wan or anything. He's just a little guy, a little Asian guy, sweet guy from Melbourne. And he's sitting there, and he's got a giant portfolio on the table. And I sit down, and I say hi, and I introduce myself, and he's like, "Hi, hey, Cary, it's like great to meet you. Oh my God, I'm so thrilled. Thank you so much for coming." I'm like, "Please, I'm happy to meet you." I'd read the script at that point, which I thought was amazing. And he opened the portfolio, and he proceeds to show me these beautiful ink and watercolor drawings of the set. He's done one of the bathroom set. He's got one of the pig mask. And they're beautifully drawn, and I go, "Wow, who did these?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I did." And that right there, I realized right then and there, this guy is not only he's a great writer, but he's a great artist. I mean, he took time to carefully detail all these drawings. In fact, I turned the next page after looking at the little doll, which scared the hell out of me. And there was this blueprint of the reverse bear trap torture, right? And it was a full blueprint with exactly like details of where every nut, bolt, screw, and spring, and that, and the key, and this. And I'm like, "Wow, James, this looks awfully detailed." He goes, "Yeah, it's operational." Turns out he had so much time and so into the detail of the film that he'd hired a friend of his who was an engineer to actually make the thing practical. So that sold me right there. I'm like, where do I sign up?
And you did a great job with the
Thank
film.
you.
And the film is, like I said, some of the later ones kind of degenerated more towards a little bit of concentrating on the film, but the first one is a brilliant
Thank you.
intellectual kind of thing, and the performances are terrific.
Thank you.
Some of your other performances feature monsters. My favorite monster that you have come up against were the rodents of unusual size. So, for those of you who don't know, I have written a book that I have written a book. I have co-written a book with the cast of The Princess Bride. Does anyone have smartphones here today? All right. Do any of you have Amazon accounts? All those who have Amazon account, raise your hand.
All right, here we go. How would you feel about trying to shut down Amazon right now? Should we give it a shot?